Netflix's Squid Game has planted itself not just as the #1 show in its home country of Korea and in Netflix's home country of the United States, but now the show is #1 in at least 90 different countries around the world at the time of recording. The show has become a worldwide phenomenon, enjoyed and discussed by millions and millions. And I must admit that being the ultimate K-drama fan as I am, I couldn't wait to just sit down and binge watch the show an entire night. And yeah, to no one's surprise, I loved it. Even before I started watching the show, my Instagram, Facebook, and all kind of social medias were flooded with Squid Game content, ranging from memes to edits to even TikToks recreating the prop of one of the most, in my opinion, unfair challenges of the show. Basically, the show has taken over not only the Netflix charts worldwide, but the internet as a whole. And I love it. I've been an admirer of Korean culture for a pretty long time now, and being able to witness my favorite culture being able to reach such high merits is an amazing and grateful feeling. Yet, something was still intriguing me and has been intriguing me ever since I started watching K-dramas and listening to K-pop. How did this happen? How could an entire nation manage to make its culture, entertainment, and music industry so widespread? How did the Korean wave start and become such a cultural phenomenon? So I've decided to dig deeper into the history of the Korean wave. And so today we will be discussing topics like the origins of the Korean wave, why are K-dramas so popular, and how did K-pop become so globalized? And of course, we'll talk about Squid Game and its impact on not only the internet, but on its viewers. Contrary to popular belief, from its original kickoff in the 1990s, it took nearly a decade until the Korean wave, or hallyu, reached a more global stage, mainly Latin America and Central Europe and the Middle East beyond Asia. The TV drama entitled What Is Love was broadcasted by a major Chinese television broadcaster, China Central Television. It ranked second in China's all-time imported video content, and so it marked the start of the Korean wave. The show What Is Love originally aired in 1991 and it had 55 episodes. The show was about two people who fell in love despite their family differences. And this gives a kind of Shakespearean edge to the show. However, the quarrel between the in-laws is way more different, and of course, nobody ends up dying. However, this portrayal of one family having a more traditional lifestyle and the other one being more modern and utilitarian creates a comedic trope, as well as portrays a very important message about the balance between these two values. In the year 2000, a 50-year ban of exchange of popular culture between Korea and Japan was lifted, which meant that shows like Winter Sonata by PBS television was aired on Japanese television. The drama became a mega hit, and the filming site of the drama, Nami Island, became a must-visit destination for Japanese tourists. So as you can see, the Korean wave isn't only a way for South Korea to popularize its culture, but it's also to draw in more tourists, which is, of course, a bonus point for the economy. But more on that later. So all the imported movies and dramas have become very popular not only in Korea, but in Singapore, Hong Kong, Vietnam, and other countries as well. The success of these entertainment products has created a tremendous buzz about the exploding popularity of Korean culture. From the mid-2000s to the early 2010s, the spread of the Korean wave was mainly led by K-pop groups like Girls' Generation, Big Bang, and Kara. During this period, the Korean wave extended its fan base into the global stage, and K-pop was especially loved by young people in their teens and 20s. The Korean wave has been exponentially thriving ever since its original appearance. It is believed that in some ways, this expansion wasn't completely unplanned and out of the blue, which means that its managers are very well aware of the importance of the Korean wave and what it has to offer for the economy. Consequent to the growing popularity of Korean brands like Samsung, LG, Hyundai, and more Pacific, including but not limited to the US industry, there is a noticeable increase in design, production, and overall quality. Entertainment products like movies, dramas, and music have all been described as having excellent production quality. Moreover, there's a careful and effective management of all touchpoints. So touchpoints are the numerous instances where a customer and consumer comes into contact with hallyu, the entertainment industry, the different organizations involved in movies, music, online gaming companies, rich Korean families, which I cannot pronounce, and the Korean government are impeccably important players when it comes to the ever-growing popularity of the Korean wave. An interesting thing to note is that Korea is probably the only countries where they have a Ministry of Culture. The Popular Culture Industry Division focuses on Korean pop music, fashion, mass entertainment, cartoons, and other key products. This, together with other three divisions, make up the Cultural Content Office. And I know people don't usually like to talk about figures because they're kind of hard, but I find this very appalling that the Cultural Content Office's budget is a staggering $5.5 billion, which of course comes from the government. And its aim, of course, is to boost economic growth through growing the country's cultural industry, export industry. I know that there were a lot of industries in that previous sentence, but what this basically means is that they want to focus on exporting as much entertainment, and that export will give them a huge profit because they focus on, with this budget, on creating as much content as possible with the highest quality ever. So people will come back and want to watch more because they know that they are signing up for something well made and high quality. So no matter what, this is a win-win for everyone. And of course, it's a huge win for Korea's economy. And to just touch on a little bit more on the Korean government's part in all of this, they're conducting different cultural festivals around the world, centered, of course, around Korean culture. And they, of course, want to publicize and indirectly help the industry by drawing in more people. Because once somebody becomes interested in the culture itself, they're more prone to indulging themselves into music and dramas as well. And there's a huge variety of all of these. To summarize the Korean wave, because there is so much content out there and so many things to choose from, if one gets introduced to maybe one drama and they like it, they will continue to consume even more and even more. And it's kind of impossible to run out of content to watch. It's nice to take it as a whole and dissect it. So let's do that. So let me start this part of the video with a confession. I love K-pop. I know that this very anxiety inducing, quite an obvious one, but I just had to do it. Anyways, I'll only talk about this briefly because my main purpose of this video was mainly to analyze Korean culture and K-drama. Nonetheless, K-pop takes part in growing the hallyu immensely. And recently, it has become the foundation of Korean culture. So how did this all happen? I mean, it wasn't just a snap of a finger and voila! K-pop became the all-time cultural phenomenon. Let's start at the beginning. K-pop began in 1992 with One Electric hip-hop performance. K-pop, as we know, it wouldn't exist without democracy and television. In 1987, there was a reformation of Korea's democratic government, and South Koreans became more regularly exposed to more varieties of music from outside the country, including contemporary American music. Before that, music that Koreans listened to was very much under tight state control, just as was television. Before the liberalization of South Korean media in the late 80s, the music produced by broadcast networks was primarily either slow ballads or trot. Trot is a traditional music with old pop standards. After the reform, TV was still the country's dominant centralized form of media, and with that, televised talent shows were crucial to introducing music groups to South Koreans. And yes, they still have an enormous cultural impact and remain the single biggest factor in South Korean band's success. We could say that K-pop is unusual as a genre because it has a definitive start date, thanks to a band called So Taiji and Boys. On April 11, 1992, the band performed their single, I Know, on a talent show. The interesting thing that happened is that the boys did not win the talent show, and the judges even gave the band the lowest score possible. However, immediately after the song debuted, I Know went on to top South Korea's single charts for a record-smashing 17 weeks. I Know represented the first time modern American-style pop music had been infused with South Korean culture. Seo and Boys were innovators who challenged norms around musical styles, song topics, fashion, and even censorship. Between 1995 and 1998, three powerhouse music studios, as you may very well know of, appeared. SM Entertainment, often referred to as SM Town, GYP Entertainment in 1997, and YG Entertainment in 1998. Created by one of the members of So Taiji and Boys, Yang Hyun-suk. Together, these studios began deliberately cultivating what would become known as idol groups. The first idol group appeared on the scene in 1996, a group called HOT, or HOT, by assembling 5 singers and dancers who represented what he believed wanted to see from a modern pop group. This trend to represent and share somewhat similar notions and beliefs with teenagers at the time has become a trend that most groups follow today as well. HOT shared traits with today's idol groups, a combination of singing, dancing, and rapping. There are 3 main things that make K-pop such a visible and unique contributor to the realm of pop music. Exceptionally high quality performance, especially dancing, an extremely polished aesthetic, and an in-house method of studio production that churns out musical hits the way assembly lines churn out cars. I know this metaphor kinda sounds cruel, but honestly, if you think about it, nowadays, many groups and artists seem to appear and they work a lot. The problem initially is that there have been reports of many trainees and even debuted artists being scrutinized, overworked, and in the end unfairly treated. And the main problem is many artists have been ostracized just because the companies are unwilling to defend their own artists. Through highly competitive auditions starting around ages 10 to 12, music studios induct talented children into the K-pop regimen. The children attend special schools where they take specialized singing and dancing lessons. They learn how to moderate their public behavior and prepare for life as a K-pop star. They spend hours and hours in daily rehearsals and perform even in the weekends. And when they're old enough, if they're really one of the lucky ones, the studio will place them into an idol group or even occasionally launch them as a solo artist, which is an even harder job. Think about it. They need to dance, sing, and rap at the same time and make sure that they alone can keep audiences coming back to their music. Many idol groups like BTS, Blackpink, Big Bang, Super Junior, 2PM, SHINee, EXO, Girls' Generation, all held tours outside Asia, and with that, making a global name for themselves. Of course, as time had passed, many more entertainment giants have given fame to numerous idol groups and solo artists. And if you want to, I might discuss this in another video only dedicated to K-pop. K-dramas are scripted TV shows. Sometimes they're referred to as Korean soap operas. But that description is misleading because K-dramas actually encompass a wide range of genres, from sci-fi and romance to horror and period pieces and everything in between. That is why there is a huge and ever-growing audience, because the wide range of genres are not only appealing to multiple people, but K-drama fans are given many options to choose from, which basically means that their viewing experience doesn't feel repetitive. In order to understand how these dramas gained popularity, we need to take a look at its formula. These dramas can differ from one another, they still follow some type of tropes and cliches. And we all know that it can make a drama either boring and repetitive or actually engaging for the viewer, if done right. Now, I want to say that this video is not a debate class, so I don't want you to think that I'm trying in any way to hate on these dramas or to say that you shouldn't watch them. In fact, I love these dramas and I watch them as much as I can, so I have my bias towards them. But this video is mainly trying to be more objective and showing you all the little details that I've noticed and what other people say and other people have noticed whilst critiquing and reviewing these dramas. Most dramas are quite lengthy, with each episode's running time being more than 60 minutes. And a season is mostly made up of 12 to 16 episodes. This means the plot has to be engaging enough, or the production slash scenes have to be captivating enough to make the viewer sit through an hour of content without giving up on it. This can be quite an arduous job, and I'm not gonna lie, not all dramas can deliver on it. Some scenes are repetitive or stretched out, giving a sense of monotony and lethargy to the show. However, I do believe that there are these little meme-worthy moments in K-dramas. Some are funny, some are cute, the best are both. And the gags will feel new to people who haven't seen much Asian television. They also tend to consist of more PG-friendly fare than Western TV shows. Nudity and sex are particularly non-existent. For example, K-dramas are more palatable for a wider range of age groups and countries because of this, especially those that are more socially conservative. This can be another reason why they're so popular, because the plots, characters, setting, and interactions feel new, fresh, and different to Western audiences. The plot either revolves around the life of the male and female lead, along with the people around them, or a group of friends or family members. In most cases, there are numerous storylines, and unlike American shows, most of them are pretty developed, to the point where each character feels unique and their part is fully explored. There are a lot of characters, and not once does the viewer feel alienated by them. So, Korean dramas successfully create emotional connections with viewers. Characters are developed and brought through trials and tribulations in such a way that the audience relates to the characters. An essential part of filmmaking is to be able to portray characters in a light which is both relatable and original. This makes the characters more complex. Now, let's talk about the cultural aesthetic appeal. To my surprise, Korean dramas are actually very educational when it comes to history and culture. You'll see that the period dramas are usually set in the Joseon era and are pretty accurate when it comes to clothing, traditions, and character interactions. Moreover, each drama depicts a similar cultural aspect. What I've noticed is that the reappearance of these aspects in various dramas gets fixed in the mind of the viewer, thus making them more open to studying the culture. This in itself creates a good opportunity for Korea. I mean, if people are invested in the culture by already having gathered some information about it, they're more likely to visit the place and experience it in person. And not only that, but this way, the culture gets spread around and becomes more globally known, which can clear up some stigmas about Koreans. Attractive cast. Well, this I think is a given. Now we could get into the underrepresentation in these dramas because there's a lot, and the constant skin lightening trying to appeal to more wider audiences maybe. Back in the 2010s, most actors look way more different than nowadays. Lighter skin, thin, fit bodies, heterosexuality and attractive features are much more common nowadays. This, of course, appeals to all audiences, yet I think that these dramas still need to focus on having a diverse cast, which they're trying to do. However, it is clear that a handsome male lead and a beautiful female lead, an all-along attractive cast, played a huge role in growing the view count on these shows. Amazing interior design. To no one's surprise, the interior design of these dramas is impeccable. It is also nice to see that it represents the economic status of each character, yet keeping it nicely decorated, which pleases the eyes. On the topic of interior design, most of them are very aesthetically pleasing. So no wonder that on Pinterest, for example, and even on TikTok, there is a whole aesthetic around Korean decor, and many people are trying to recreate them. Even outside the shows themselves, the decor has been widely popularized. And this just goes to show the impact these dramas have on their viewers. The cast is mostly very well dressed, and again, the clothes are chosen according to the character's financial and economic state. For example, in the show Heirs, the female lead was living in a very poor circumstance. So you could see that even though her wardrobe was pretty okay, she didn't have those designer-looking items that the other wealthy students had. These dramas keep the costume design very realistic, yet so aesthetic in addition. Just like with the decor, there is a K-drama inspired fashion aesthetic going around on Instagram, Pinterest, and even TikTok. And let me tell you, I am in awe of all the outfits some of the characters wear. They always represent the personality of the wearer. And of course, let's not forget about the delicious, mouth-watering food that is presented in these dramas. It's a part of this cultural aspect that goes unnoticed, but it's also a way to familiarize audiences with Korean food and the traditions around cooking food. This aspect, again, can boost the Korean wave even more. So now, after all of this, you might ask, Esther, what does all of this have to do with Squid Game? Well, it has to do a lot. If the Korean wave didn't exist, there wouldn't be a Squid Game to begin with. The hallyu has given the opportunity to Korean producers to globalize their work with the help of streaming services like Netflix. The first K show to be a Netflix original, being Kingdom, was a huge hit. And due to the positive responses, Netflix was open to more Korean collaborations. And on September 17th, 2021, came Squid Game into the picture. Now, spoiler alert for the entire show. The series centers on a contest where 456 players, drawn from different walks of life, but each deeply in-depth, play a set of children's games with deadly penalties. For losing, for the chance to win a 45.6 billion won prize. Though initially scripted in 2008, Hong had been unable to find a production to support the script until Netflix, around 2019, found interest as part of their drive to expand their foreign programming. Hong Dong-hyuk wrote and directed all 9 episodes himself. Now that we kind of understand why the show became so popular, I wanted to mainly focus on its impact on the internet, but I also want to touch on some controversies and discussions that this show has started, starting with the internet. So, you might have already noticed that the actors in the show weren't the most popular actors in South Korea. So I just wanted to show you the change and growth of their Instagram accounts as the show started and after the show has been going on for quite a while now. And what I find interesting is that some of the actors' Instagram pages weren't created before. They were created like a few days before the show started. So it was interesting to see the exponential growth these accounts had. And so came many TikTok challenges, memes, fan edits, and other Instagram creations. So, as I was searching on Instagram and I just typed in hashtag squid, it was enough. Like, there were so many hashtags, and I even at some point wrote in only squid, and there were tons and tons of fan pages dedicated to either the actors or the show itself. And of course, there were tons and tons of memes. But what I found interesting is there were so many creative, either reimagination of some of the characters, there were illustrations, there were so many beauty and fashion stuff, let's just call it that. There were crazy makeup looks and even lipstick styling looks. There were dresses dedicated to the show. So many crazy stuff. And let's not forget about the Dalgonia candy challenge that's been going on TikTok. And the fan edits are just unimaginable. So many edits are either dedicated to our little best friendies. There are some badass edits. So Roblox is a gaming platform, and they're very fast to catch on these trends. And so they recreated the gaming arena and give their players a chance to kind of experience the whole series as if they were part of the gang. And I found it interesting how not only did Roblox create this sensation, but it also made its users part of the experience and also gave the chance to some Roblox or gaming creators to grow their audiences. And I've seen so many videos trending on YouTube that were basically these guys checking out the Roblox Squid Game recreation game. And it was fun to see some people trying them out and giving their opinions on the show. Now, of course, what happens is that there are many commentary slash video essayists who have created amazing video essays about the show and just like me portrayed there was about the show, and they mainly focused on the capitalist aspect of the show, and we were going to touch on that a little bit later, but we need to continue on with this part. And of course, there are many creators, especially on YouTube, who recreate the challenges in real life. Now, of course, if you lose, you don't die, but it was just nice to see how everybody was kind of joining in the trend. Yet it was kind of shocking to see the impact the show actually had and how it might have paved the way for other shows like Squid Game. And we already know that there's going to be a second season, so I feel like people are very interested in what's going to happen in that one. So what I wanted to actually convey in this part is that due to the fact that the internet nowadays is so much more different and information flows around the internet way faster than before, it actually led many creators to gain more popularity. However, you can see that some actually, just like in every situation, kind of go too far and they trying to do the utmost to draw in more and more people to watch their videos and maybe subscribe and engage with them. An interesting thing is that the surge in network traffic led one internet service provider to sue Netflix to cover its cost. And of course, the furor has also spilled over into real life. A street vendor in Seoul who provided the candy for the makers of Squid Game has told Reuters that he had seen a boom in his business. An Instagram page titled Impact had also pointed out a post about a South Korean protest in which some protesters dressed up in those red costumes, of which I don't know the name of, and protested against the workload of some Koreans working in businesses, how they're overworked and treated unfairly. Reality or fiction? Mark Johnson, a lecturer in digital cultures at the University of Sydney, describes as the death game genre in dystopian surroundings at heart is a critique of the central implicit idea of the late capitalist world. That everything is hard work, everything is skill, everybody gets to where they belong in a perfect global society. All those claims are shown to be nothing. The show depicts its characters striving to navigate the impact of capitalism on modern society. The intense competitiveness may be one reason South Korea has been so successful, with a period of rapid industrialization starting in the 1960s that turned it into the world's 10th largest economy. But as in many other countries, a university degree and a white-collar job don't guarantee the financial security they used to. With an average income of about $42,000 a year, many Koreans now find they have to borrow to keep up. Even though the show mainly focuses on debt problems in Korea, which of course creates discomfort within its society, in a way the series appears to expose a part of Korean society rather than trying to put it in a good light. The people inside the game are so desperate for a way out that they come back when they are given the chance, and they are even capable of killing each other because the winner takes all. Now, on the other hand, you can see that the main character, Lee Yong-ye, is different from the others in some more ways. He pays attention to his teammates and he wants to protect them at all costs. Even player 001, it seems like him being the protagonist makes us shift into this idea that people in debt are suffering rather than they're bad people and they want to hurt someone else to get the money. However, I cannot say for certain that this morality of his was the reason why he won the game. And it seems kind of generic, and I think the writers of the show had a different idea with him, and of course, him being the main character, it was kind of expected that he would win. A university professor says that Koreans love to be number one, but number one at the cost of kind of airing your dirty laundry is a somewhat different thing. Lifting the veil off the immaculate image that the country has made for itself can be both shocking and ironic. So yeah, we could say that the show focused on the debt problem in Korean society, but I do think that when you view this on a global scale, you notice that a lot of countries struggle with this issue. That is why it resonates with other folks as well. We could say that this drama, even though hyper-real and totally unrealistic, has lit on the anxiety that really is driving day-to-day, all-too-real mental illnesses. That brings together denial, a sense of impotence, because it often feels as though nothing can be done. It can just seem overwhelming. And a huge stigma, people don't like to admit to debt or seek help. They feel they have to manage it on their own, says Helen Gernam, head of equalities at Rethink Mental Illness. After many years of trying to normalize mental illness and the importance of mental illness, debt problems still cause shame and an unwillingness to ask for help. In an interview with Kyung-hyun Kim, a filmmaker and professor of visual and East Asian Studies at the University of California, Irvine, he describes having a sense of disgust towards the show due to its bloody portrayal of his childhood memories. This made me think, and I realized something. Games in general represent childhood, innocence, and friendly competition. However, in the show, these games are turned over their head, and in a way, they represent the way people think about their lives as adults. They wish to return to childhood and be free again, free of any problems, and most obviously, financial problems. The game allows people who are struggling with debt to return to the past, but with the cost of their lives. Reality cannot and should not be changed. These games portray the idea that even if we return to our childhood, it's not the answer. We need to face our problems head on and try to find a way to better our situation. Even if it sounds impossible, there is a way to do something about it. Or is there? Well, I'm sure the system is not at fault here, right?